The Montana, it does not copyright its laws. So if you don't catch the librarian breaking the back of the book, you can go to the copy machine and copy to your heart's content. If you have access to a computer, you can send a disc to the legislative council and say, I'd like to have Title 40 on this. And they'll send it back to you in any word processor format you want. And you can print it up and make it fancy or make it look like whatever you want. You can do anything you want with it. That's one of the beauties of not having Montana's law copyrighted. It belongs to the people. People always have access to it. So I encourage you to get a copy of that Title 40 and the chapters 1 through 9 now, I think it is. They have everything from family law in it to child support enforcement. Some of it is going to be minute detail that you don't care about, like how the child support enforcement division works. But on the other hand, it's going to have some useful information to you, for example, on how DFS works, its authority, and how in family law where a voluntary guardian ad litem is appointed by Sarah.
I have a copy of DFS policy.
The law always overrides the policy.
University law. University of Montana law library isn't right up the city library. Right.
Why is that?
It's not law. The law always overrides the policy.
That's what it spells out what DFS is supposed to do.
To enforce the law.
Doesn't the law library have the administrative breaks?
Yeah,
The green boy?
Some of them. So they're hard to keep up to date.
that's another thing that can take the university rules of Montana. That's not law.
Well, it's law unless the law, it's the law unless the law is different. Yeah. Like, say for example, there would be a regulation that says that a social worker has to knock before coming in. Okay? But the regulations say you can enter anytime you want, don't bother to knock. The regulation is not valid if the law is opposite. The law rules before the regulation, but if the law says DFS can go to the house, and the regulation says if you have a good reason you can go in without knocking, then that's not a conflict, and so the regulation would prevail.
Because I know I went to Larry Manch here when he was defending a woman that had a control dismissed. And in the ARM, there's a, I can't remember what section, but it says the DFS is supposed to destroy the records after everything is settled and done. There's no substantiated claims and allegations that are unfounded. They're supposed to destroy those records. And Max even told me that isn't what DFS does. I said, well, it's the ARM. He said, well, it's not law. Why don't you give me that note? Because it's there.
But you know, a lot of things are like that. There's a rule that says that if you get a deferred sentence, postponed sentence in a criminal case, and after you've done your deferred sentence time in case the charges are dismissed, it's as if you were never charged. Well, if you get convicted of a second crime, the judge, when he sentences you on the second time, he can look back and we see that you had this other charge, even though they said it was dismissed from off your record. And we take that into account. So.
I have a question for you, Eric. Exactly what are your set of standards from what somebody calls in and supposedly reports some abuse and neglect to you? What exactly, contains that, whether it's valid or not valid?
I guess what we rely on are the social workers and the county specific training and interview, etc. And I would say, with physical abuse, we validate it. But with the others, I would say an awful lot, the majority of it relies on the interview, both the trial, the alleged perpetrator, whatever the condition of that was. Probably most of the time, those immediate parties. Okay. Sometimes, school people might come in or neighbors or something. So I would have to say most of the time.
So that is how Could you let them know in advance?
Probably not.
That's what I was curious about, exactly what kind of proof would need to be given, like on neglect, because it's so hard to, prove. I'm like in my case, I'm going out, with what the children are telling me. And I didn't know whether, I didn't think that it was something you could like record and take to somebody, or exactly what
Sir,
you're
you were
doing.
saying that would we rely just on the child's testimony?
If you knew what was going on, yeah. If I were to say report it, and, would that child be brought in and actually interviewed for like neglect?
With sexual abuse cases, majority of the times we will interview the child, but we will also perpetrator.
You had a question?
Yeah. I have a friend whose little girl is same age as my oldest, who told her mom that her dad was touching her in places that he wasn't supposed to. Well, she's got custody of the kids, he has limitations, blah, blah, blah. The state's not doing anything. When this has been about 3 months, and she was brought it up, she's gone to the police, she's gone, she's talked to DFS numerous times. The child has even told the DFS worker and the sheriff what had happened, and nothing happened. He still has full rights to see this child every other weekend, which is when it's been happening.
What do you think this means? He's got pulled. No, seriously, what do you think this means? Do you think this means that DFS, we'll call it DFS, it's an easy name. The DFS says, yeah, there is sexual abuse here, but we're going to let it go on. You think that's what it
They
means?
haven't even contacted him. I don't know who he is, but they haven't even contacted him to investigate it. So it's just sitting there. And I know that she has, she was ready to that spot. I haven't heard if she's living or not. I haven't talked to her.
Did they interview the child? Did DFS come?
Yeah, and they had a report. She did tell the DFS worker what had happened and showed, using the doll, showed exactly what happened. Which is really scary when we're able to do that. But, so the DFS worker believes this little girl. And it's on, it's on file with the legal said, and, the sheriff has a report on it, and they haven't even talked to the father yet.
The DFS would rather take the children that aren't abused, that's why.
Well, I think, I'm not, I know you brought it up, but I want to try to be one of the difficult things, and I know there might be a couple of things around this, that we are also mandated to protect people that we have no reason to interview or to refer to law enforcement. So, for instance, if the child, unless in a sexual abuse case where law enforcement is involved most of the time, if the child may tell the worker something different than they tell the parent, and that's what we have to go on, and that's where the workers' training comes in. But if the child doesn't say it's daddy or the neighbor, we just can't ask law enforcement to go out and interview somebody.
She said who it was.
Well,
Does that mean anything?
She said it to whom?
She told the DFS worker.
You were there?
No, this is what the mother told me.
Was the mother there when DFS interviewed?
Yes. I'm just trying to, get some information to suggest to her to help her out.
I agree.
Don't give them, keep pressing. And I think you
I'm
both
just trying to be
kids.
her friend and support her when I can.
Yeah, I think a lot of times the workers in an interview know that there's something going on with the child sex abuse.
Keep this in mind. We've heard things from this end of the table about what the hated ex-spouse does. And DFS sees a whole bunch of stuff come in saying, my hated ex-spouse is making these allegations. And then from the other side of the desk is, look what my ex-spouse is doing. So a lot of the times they're wrong on either side. So they have to sort of pick through and see, are these really valid allegations and can we prove them? Because if we start ripping these families apart, as he pointed out, we're destroying the relationship between the father and that girl, but if we don't do something, we're destroying the girl.
His mother has been able to keep her little girl away from him. Not being home when he comes by, not answering the door when he goes by. I mean, he's been able to dodge it so far. But
I bet we've got a dad in this room that's experienced that same kind of a thing from an ex-spouse who ducks out on him with the kid all the time, and he's mad as hell.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But there's also, on the other hand, if my child says that she's being voice, if my child says she's being abused by the father, I do not want him around. I mean, why would I want to send my child back to that? But then again, this father has rights.
Everybody's right. You should check into that, even if the dad isn't doing it. If there's a suspicion of a sexual abuse case, then there should be some interaction right away. It shouldn't matter whether it's, well, maybe, we can't go specific. If this little girl talked about her dad touching her, somebody better be knocking on his door.
Yeah,
If that were the case, we would.
It was that simple.
If a child told us that Daddy did X, Y, and Z, and we felt she was pretty proud, we would be there.
Well, this child has said to the DFS one, yes, but
Yeah,
first,
there were two parts to what he said.
true.
He said that the child said it, and the child is credible. Part one is said it, part two is credible.
How do you determine credibility of a 4-year-old girl?
Say that again.
How would you determine the credibility of a 4-year-old girl? From her past history? She's 4 years old. Why is she going to lie about her dad
I
touching
think
her pieces?
consistency on interview.
Are you around
I know she didn't believe more than one time.
Are you around to have the fixed orders at all interviews with the
They're
DFS?
not admissible in court. I know.
A lot of, I think Zula said it, where at least sexual abuse interview will be on video. I think that's coming to that.
One thing that's happening in Missoula is a CARES unit is being established, and at a CARES unit, it would be a one-stop for the child. So if there's sexual abuse, the child would be taken to the CARES unit, and it will have one interviewing process to go through with someone who's trained specifically to do that. It will have one doctor's exam with someone who's specifically trained to do that. It won't have to go through a series of interviews, first with police, then with DFS, then with somebody else. It's going to be a one-stop, and they have CARES units in Great Falls and in other places around the country. And they're very successful, and they usually do have them on videotape, and funding's in place. Couple people working really hard as a committee together, and it'll be a really good thing.
In the interviews, multi-agencies, like the county attorney, law enforcement agencies.
We can't minimize the seriousness of what you're saying. On the other hand, these are so difficult cases to prove, especially with young children. I'll give you an example. About 5 years ago, a woman comes to me and says that during the custody battle we have, the child goes to the daycare provider and says, "Daddy hurt my knee." When asked with what, with his beard, with his face. Okay, this is a 3-year-old now, almost 4. 2 psychologists examined both mother, father, and others as well. They disagree. 2 social workers absolutely disagree. In fact, they get so angry at each other that one of them quits DFS. It's just a really horrible, and then of course the judge is faced with trying to decide what to do in that situation, not only with the DFS case, but with the custody case as well. And yet, even though he eventually passes the lie detector test, my client's mom never would have believed this, that he didn't do it. But, it's an
experience, it seems as though there's also certain people that can, I don't know how it happens, that's why I was asking what makes it a priority to be investigated, but almost, when they get into that system, it almost works for them. When it seems like the proof is just expounding out to this with my stepson. And I called in that I thought there was a possible sexual abuse problem. And the child had been charged, she was 8 years old, been charged by the state for sexual assault on a 3-year-old. For the purpose of getting that child into counseling. And we called the county attorney, we called youth probation, everything, and nobody would push for this child to get in there. But there was this expounding evidence that there obviously was some kind of problem. But it never had the priority to, we couldn't get anybody to really push it. And that's what I was curious about, what exactly.
So the situation was, another, a child outside that family had abused the child.
Right, well, it was inside the same family, it was my stepson, my son's father, but, nothing, I mean, the state even got involved and said that they'd press charges for the reason of making sure the child working in some kind of counseling. It's been 2 years, and we've called youth probation, everything, and nobody will enforce the child getting in there. To me, that's like an adult molester out on the streets, because this child's never gonna get any help. But when you talk to him, he laughs it off, the father, he laughs it off, because I have reported him several times, he's like, well, now I got 3 child here, and there's nothing I've really done to him, to him, it's a joke.
I don't know. That I agree, I think sometimes that we, we have pushed the situation just to get.
Thank everybody for